Weather portion of AgweekTV, spring beginning to get going across the area. We've gotten at least some very warm temperatures into the northern plains, but is it a fall spring? Very likely in early March. Usually the first warm weather, oftentimes the first warm weather, particularly if it comes quite early, is followed by some type of stormy weather. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. Longer range as we look ahead to spring planting and the beginning of spring tillage across the upper Midwest, northern Great Plains, Corn Belt, etc. I expect that some parts will end up being a little too wet this year and some parts too dry. We'll take a look at that too coming up in just a minute. Let's focus first of all, jet stream pattern this and at the initial start of this over the weekend and into the early part of the week, we're looking at a big ridge of high pressure, and underneath that will come northward some very warm air. We may get some 60s and 70s into South Dakota and a lot of 50s and 60s into North Dakota. Just a very mild weather pattern. Won't last that long though. The jet stream will crash, the ridge moves east, loses some of its punch, and we'll see some colder weather dropping back in. This transition will likely lead to some type of a midweek storm system, and depending on the progress of that cold front, could be rain or snow in your location. Could be a lot, could be a little. I don't expect this to be a huge volume of precipitation, but probably significant for at least some parts. If you want warm weather, the southern Corn Belt will be building up underneath this ridge. The north will likely go back below freezing and stay that way for most of this week, but that's just a week. As we get into the second week of this period, I expect the cold to release itself a little bit. Going back into Canada, the really cold stuff will stay up near Hudson Bay, and we'll see temperatures going back up above freezing into the northern plains. There will be some cool weather throughout the Corn Belt, but I don't expect anything really all that cold. So where this storm system will take shape, likely around the middle of this week is kind of anybody's guess. It'll be in this region, but where it's rain and snow, really, we'll let the local forecasters help you on that as we get a little closer to it. But I do expect some precipitation here and some Rocky Mountain snows and some West Coast rain. The second week now, we're talking March 14th through 20th, I expect at least one more, maybe two more storms to develop in the Corn Belt Great Lakes area. I think the northern plains is going to miss out on most of that. It's going to be an eastward shift here, while the Pacific Northwest and the northern Rockies stay fairly wet. And this eastward shift will likely continue. As we look ahead to the general pattern for late March, it looks mild but wet. In other words, potentially stormy but warm over much of the Corn Belt, including much of the western Corn Belt, whereas the northern Great Plains will be fairly dry. Early in mid-April looks like fairly widespread dry weather, warm in the east, little cooler in the Rocky Mountains.